Rocker Pat here. All right, guys, man, it is a dreary week in the jungle. It has been raining all week long, and nothing super heavy. Just, you know, that standard drizzle rain, not kind of heavy, but not, you know, it's just raining, man. But if you listen to the news channel, man, it's flooding everywhere. The world's gonna come in. Chicken little sons of bitches. Anyway, guys, I don't have much going on this week. We'll just do a quick what am I doing this next week. This 2013 has a check engine light on and a transmission acting weird, so I've got to go ahead and pull the valve body out of it to change the lead frame, which is the wiring for the transmission inside the thing. But it's, you know, conveniently located under the valve body. So basically what's wrong is it's got an output speed sensor that's going intermittent, and yeah, got to change that. The other job I got going on here is on last Monday I had Honda sitting out there on the other side. We'll go look at it in a second. And that came out of the coolant. Spent all Tuesday trying to get the coolant cleaned up enough to figure out whether or not it was actually transmission fluid or engine oil. Now that it's separated a little bit, you can, it's definitely transmission fluid, but that was chocolate milky when I was looking at it. And the culprit is laying here on my desk, and that's got to go in. You cannot buy that from O'Reilly's. I ended up having to get that from eBay, which I hate buying parts from eBay for customer cars, but Honda wanted almost $400 for this, my cost, and yeah, that was 41 something, and I waited a few days to get it. Next thing I got to do with that car is, now that I've got that cooler, is every coolant hose has to be replaced on this, and the transmission needs to be flushed, and let's cross our fingers that it lasts. This morning I actually got out here and got the old tint off the back window of my truck. So I'm hoping that at night I can see out of the back deal a little better, but that being said, I still need a new rear view mirror. This guy came in. He's one of the Centerpoint people. I work on some Centerpoint guys, lineman's truck. This guy's an engineer and everything. And his old Chevy truck that his daddy bought brand new ain't running right. And he brought it in, and of course some other people have been trying to work on it and they can't get it right. But you know, I get the reputation that I can work on a carburetor, because I've only been doing that since I was 13 years old. And I can already tell you there's some things that I don't like about this engine here, and I don't know, let's talk about that real quick. That might be interesting to some as to why I don't like certain things. You got like a 650 carburetor sitting on top of this huge ass tall tunnel ram style, well, maybe not a tunnel ram, but a open plane Wien hot rod race freaking, you know, intake manifold that's designed to work at probably 3,500 to 6,500 RPM flow proper, and you're trying to get it to, you know, run on a small block Chevy 350 with, you know, exhaust manifolds, and, you know, supposed to have a little cam in it, but not much. I promise you this intake is causing some issues. The first thing I found when it got here was where I got that little plug and that bolt sitting there. That vacuum port was wide open. And then the next thing that I can't stand is, if you look at that distributor right there, this is the number 2 spark plug wire, and that is the number 1 spark plug wire, and that is the number 8 spark plug wire. 1, 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2. But 2 should be right there, and 1 should be right there, and 8 should be right there. I'm a big stickler on spark plug wires being in the right locations. And that tells me that the timing is not correct. Well, it will run, and it will adjust down here on the timing mark. But it is phased incorrectly for how it should be on the cap. And I'm a big stickler of that, and I'm going to have to take that distributor cap off and relocate that distributor rotor so that it moves back this direction and move all them wires one place in there. The other thing I found while I was fiddling around yesterday was that I don't believe the Vacuum Advance, that little can thing right there, is working properly, because they got it hooked up to the manifold vacuum over here. And it doesn't seem to change the idle any when I disconnect it or connect it, and I sucked on it and I didn't really feel it moving properly. So anyway, that's that. I don't know what all I'm going to do to this thing. I'm probably going to pull the plugs out and see if they're fouled. Probably fouled due to the fact that I think that the floats are maybe possibly set too high, because he said he's had somebody working on this carburetor, and both of my idle needle mixture screws I'm having to screw all the way in, or else it stumbles and falls on its face. When it got here, this one was screwed all the way in, and this one was out about a turn, but I had a big huge vacuum leak at the back, so that explains why it had to have some idle to cover up for that vacuum leak. And the throttle plates were almost shut, so kind of opened that up a little bit so it can pull some fuel through the idle circuit, because if they're completely closed, they can't pull fuel properly. So yeah, that's what's going on here. I think I'm gonna, and then I drove it after I fixed the vacuum leak and kind of yanked on the distributor a little bit to give it some timing, because it seemed like it was sluggish. And I found out that when I drove it, that it was running a little better. But when I turn a corner, it seems like it stumbles, so I'm assuming the reason why that the idle mixture screws have to be screwed all the way in is because the floaty floats are probably set too high and is dribbling over somewhere that I can't see, just eyeballing through the holy hole over there. So maybe I'll make a little video on what I got to do to make this thing run a little better, but I really would prefer a Edelbrock Performer intake manifold, not necessarily a Performer RPM when you ain't got no headers, but just a standard Performer dual plane intake manifold would probably make this thing more streetable. And for God's sakes, I would love to have a carburetor with an electric choke on it, because the cable thing, I'm not a fan. All right, well, let's go over here and see what I did get done. I did, while I was waiting this week for parts to come in, because of course everything came in on Friday afternoon and Saturday. You know, can't come in on Monday or Tuesday. They got to come in on the weekend. On this, I finally got the lien release, and for the boat trailer and the boat from the finance company this last week. So I don't know where we're going, but I can tell you right now, I came over here and I tried to polish some of this, and I ended up getting whatever clear coat flaking off from the heat of the polisher, and I didn't get no shine. So maybe I'll buy a brisket and ask some people to come over here and grab hold of a DA, and let's get that ugly color off. I hate that color. There's some things you just got to get rid of. On this, if you're still hanging out, I got this back floor in. Got it all welded in. Everything's nice and tidy. Up underneath, I've got the trim panel that goes on over the beam, and I've got the plate that is opposite of that on the bottom end, and welded and ground, and everything's ready to go down there. Had to make me a little, I kind of put this together a little bit different, but it's good, and got that done. And this is the only thing I got left to do back here, but I need to seam seal that line right there, and I don't want to open up a tube of seam sealer until I'm ready to do everything on this side of the car, because if I open it up and I don't get back to it, I'm gonna lose it. So that'll be the last thing that I weld in back here on the floors. It was the last thing I welded in over there. That way I could seam everything on this side of the car and use that one tube of caulking up and not waste it. So the next thing I'm going to work on is over here. I got to get the inner torque box in it and the outer torque box, and then I can get the floor in. So what I'm going to work on today is getting that outer torque box out of the car and start making a new one, and maybe by this time next week I'll have the inner and the outer torque boxes up into the car, and I can get rocking and rolling on this. This project is taking too long, but sometimes that's what happens. You get out of funk with it or whatever, and I end up, you know, working on something else that I like. Because, you know, at first these things sound like a good idea, but they don't always fucking come out to be a good idea due to the fact that you just lose it. I personally lose interest and I got to jump to something else. But there's total rust right there, and it's covered up on the outside, so that box has got to come out, and I've already done it on the other side. I figure I can do it on this side, and I already got the inside panel made. I got one more panel to make after that outer torque box gets done, and then we can go to Sparky Weldy. And of course I ran out of gas. I had to go get gas this week, and I ran out of wire. And sometimes I have trouble with this Eastwood MiG 250. I run out of wire, and then I open up some new wire, and then it starts spitting and sputtering, and I have lots of difficulty until I roll through some of the wire. I think that may be the problem, but I've literally thrown a roll of wire our way because I couldn't get it to work. You know, it's working fine, and then I run out of wire, and I get a new roll of wire, and then it doesn't work right any longer, and I don't know what the problem is there. Yeah, other than that, it's still a good welder. Wish the lead was longer, because 8 foot is just not long enough. You know, my old welder, that Snap-on there has a 14-footer, and that was perfect. All right, guys, well, that is about all I got going on this week. I don't think I'm going to get anything done with Johnny over there, but maybe I'll practice some guitar and get ready for that. All right, guys, well, that is all I got going on this week in the rockin' neighborhood, and y'all keep rocking and a rolling and a rolling and a rocking. And one day we're going to get to grinding on that.